UK refuses to join France, Germany and Netherlands in halting arms sales to Turkey.
Here's a summary of the article.
The British government has refused to join its allies in halting arms sales to Turkey over the country's military operation against Kurdish forces in Syria. One of the world's largest arms exporters, is notably absent from the list, and raised further eyebrows by initially arguing against condemning Turkey during a Monday meeting of foreign ministers to draw up a common EU position. British MEPs condemned the UK refusal to join its allies in halting arms sales. Liberal Democrat MEP Irina von Weser, a member of the European Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee, told The Independent, "The UK is increasingly out of step with the rest of the EU. Instead of trying to weaken a strong EU response to Turkey's incursion into northeast Syria and murderous attack on the Kurds, UK ministers should be implementing a ban on arms exports and condemning Turkey's actions, which risk reviving ISIS and rewarding Russia." In an agreed joint statement, EU foreign ministers said, "The EU recalls the decision taken by some member states to immediately halt arms exports licensing to Turkey. Member states commit to strong national positions regarding their arms export policy to Turkey on the basis of the provision of the Common Position 2008-944, CFSP on arms export control, including the strict application of Criteria 4 on regional stability." Turkey views the Syrian Kurdish groups as a threat because of their links with Kurdish separatists in eastern Turkey.
This post received a score of 50,572, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Why isn't the UK stopping selling arms to Saudi Arabia?
The reason the really big arms sellers haven't stopped is because the enemies of NATO will happily sell them weapons instead. Refusing to sell is giving up influences and giving Beijing and the Kremlin new customers to fund new military tech and arms expansion.
Okay, but could what the UK is doing actually be considered the smarter thing to do then?
Forcing these countries to continue to be NATO friends by making them heavily dependent on Western parts, guns, ammo, and training. If NATO can convince these countries to forego a military to substitute with only allied forces, we can keep them allies. There's no good way to keep these people our friends except through cultural bounds or legal methods. Political capital is a lot easier to engage a country in.
Good reminder of the politics, thank you. Was wondering how the UK could do such a thing, myself, but of course the answer is leverage. Makes sense.
The large difference in the policies employed is if the aid rendered is military, food, medical, NGO engineering, or financial aid. Liberal governments favour unarmed military equipment, NGOs and food, and medical aid. Conservative governments favour financial aid, armed military equipment, and NGO engineering. Unfortunately, it's an evil we need. If you believe in the Western ideal vs Chinese vs Russian ideals, you need to support your side's ideals essentially being imposed on others, because over time most certainly the other ideals will be imposed on you.
Holy shit, dude. Well said.
Hardly gonna back down so soon after Theresa May so recently 2 years ago led the charge to sell more arms to them.
Not at all surprised. The UK Conservatives have been doing the same thing for Saudi Arabia and its invasion of Yemen for years. Different regime, different place, same story.
Whereas this is undoubtedly true, I'm a bit torn by the fact that I'm very quick to chastise Americans who seek to excuse their foreign policy by blaming it on one political party. The rest of the world doesn't usually differentiate between parties and just sees it as part of the more homogeneous American foreign policy. I think it's incumbent on us too, therefore, to acknowledge that until they change their position, this is also a British government policy and therefore representative of the British position. It's done in the name of our government, I'm afraid.
Thank you. The same is true for Germany and all other countries involved. They do it in the name of the people.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.